morning, everybody. I am live. It is Friday morning, the 16th of August, 2019. Wait till we get over on the other side and confirm that I am live. And it appears that I am here. There we go. Yes, let's make sure the sound. Confirm that I. Yep, that's good. Sound is going good. Everything is working beautifully on here. Thank you, Streamlabs. How you doing, Almost Uber? Nathan, morning, sweetie. Jacques Blue, nice to see you. And I hope everybody's having a good Friday. Just got done with the boss and Janet have left the Rancho this morning. Jackie, how are you? Karina, thank you, sweetheart. For an old broad, I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you, honey. Got a few things to talk about. A lot of things to talk about this morning. I've been kind of MIA out fishing. Hey, DF Knock, how are you this morning? I've been out, obviously, fishing, as many of you saw on the stream. So I've not really been too tuned into what's going on YouTube the last couple days. Some things take priority, and I needed to make sure whenever we have guests on the Rancho that we're always putting them first and foremost. Fitz, how you doing? Nice to see you. Fun in the sun in the house. I'd like to take care of guests on the Rancho and treat them first class. Setting up the Shine Shack outside, of course, with the help of Missy Jenn. How you doing, Cheryl? Nice to see you, sweetheart. Setting up the Shine Shack out there. Getting to bed. Andrew W., how you doing, honey pie? Getting that all set up. Oh, thank you, Nathan. Making sure that they had air conditioning there. Of course, we had tremendous heat conditions. It's really something to be out on the water, and it's 69, 72, 73 degrees on the Pacific, and you drive 20 miles east, and it's 100 degrees on the Rancho, and you've got to be considerate of your guests. They're not quite used to all that heat. So we set up the portable AC unit. Yeah, Janet, it was good. So, hey, Rena, how you doing? Hey, Allison, Shamaj, how are you, sweetheart? So we got everything. Hey, Beryl. Yeah, the sea trip was pretty darn epic, and I have to say we've been on a lot of deep sea fishing. Yesterday morning, I think there was some confusion. Was that this trip or was that last trip? In fact, what that was, to give you guys an idea of the combination fishing and crabbing trip that this captain, he's the only one on the coast from, say, Santa Cruz up to Eureka that offers the combo trip where you can go out in the fall. You can come back with 10 nice Dungeness crabs. Now, you don't do the actual crabbing. You saw on the video that there are deckhands that do that work, and they're highly skilled. And they have to cater to a lot of people, and they survive on tips out there. Not crowded, had elbow room. But that video was from November, and I remember that icy morning. There was actually ice on the deck, and you could see the orange sky. At that time, the Paradise fires were going on at that time. The wildfire that destroyed the town of Paradise. And within about a space of about 8 months, following on the heels of the Great Santa Rosa fire, you had the two biggest urban wildfires in U.S. history. So you could see all that orange in the sky of all the smoke and all that. That fish tasted fantastic. Good morning, Zeus. Nice to see you. So when you're out there crabbing, you're not actually handling the gear. They have the automated. It's like Deadliest Catch, right? But they wind that on the winch. They bring up those pots. They'll set them, rebait them when they bring them up. And the captain uses GPS to run a string. This guy's been on the water basically for 50 years. He's been out there. This captain knows how. He's a tough guy. He can be a little grumpy at times. He can be a little short-tempered. But the one thing this guy guarantees you is that you are going to be over the fish, and then the rest is up to you. This guy knows every square inch of that bottom from the mouth of San Francisco Bay probably all the way up 50 miles up the coast. This guy knows where the fish are, as demonstrated by yesterday. So that was just a reload of November. I edited at the beginning. He usually gives kind of a Vince Lombardi speech when you're on the deck in the morning. He, talks about his experience, talks about the expectations that you should have. Got to temper them a little bit. He always kind of goes in on the low so that you come out feeling good. My feeling is this guy stays out on the water until everybody on that boat gets their legal limit. And there were some questions that came up. It was a lot of fun. This guy's the #1 charter boat guy out of the north central California coast. Why? Because he grew up in it, because he dedicates his life to it. He has a bait shop there. His wife runs a restaurant. So he's definitely a mariner in a true sense. That he will take you out there. He will put you on the fish, and he will make sure that that trip exceeds your expectation. Hence, he can put anywhere from yesterday we had 14 people. We fished almost. Thank you, Zeus. We fished with almost 50 people on deck before. And you can imagine when you're one of the deckhands, you're surviving on tips, and there's people, when you have 50 anglers on a boat, there's people getting pissed off at each other. There's people fighting over fish. If you get your line tangled around somebody else and you have a fish on, sometimes it doesn't even matter. The boss landed a huge salmon yesterday, but it was given to the guy. It was on his hook, even though the boss was the one. This guy had no hope of bringing that fish up because it was tangled. Well, the boss was the one he was tangling with, and the boss is the one that boated that salmon. But it was awarded to the other guy. Hi, Harvey. Good morning. And there's really nothing you can do about it. Deckhand. But they're running around. People's lines are tangling. You got various people. Some people know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly how deep to set their gear. And then you have people that come along and they're first timers, and they're just letting out a mile of line behind. And by the time the boat turns in the wind, everybody's gear is snagged up and caught. And the deckhand's got to go in there and untangle that mess while the other people, thank you, Almost Uber, while the other people are catching fish, and they're calling for the gaff, and they're calling for the net. So these guys are constantly in motion. They're on the boat at 4:45 a.m. in the morning to check licenses. And yes, in California, yeah, damn seal, yeah. Good morning, Joan Ann Smith. Thank you. It was a fun day with huge rewards. We'll get to that because I had a lot of questions come in overnight. People wanted to know if the trip is worth it. You pay $130 for the trip. You can do the math by the time we're done, and I have quite a few things to talk about. That Q&A, another BOYT first, the van key. As many of you know, in Cheyenne, Wyoming, I was unfortunately lost my keys somewhere around Cheyenne Frontier Days event. That's finally coming to conclusion. Travel plans upcoming, and then fall on the Rancho. Glad you like that. Yeah, the deckhands, I tipped out $10 a pop to each of them. The boss tipped $40 per deckhand because it's he and Janet, even though she's not fishing. So yeah, they depend, and also they're cleaning fish. Your 10 rockfish, when you catch them, they'll clean that. They'll clean all 10 of them for $10, about $1 a fish. And as you've seen in the videos, you've got a guy that can fillet and get a fish down in less than 15-20 seconds. Okay, these guys are highly skilled. When your rig's all screwed up and your gear is all fouled up and you think your day's all effed up, these guys come to the rescue. Dana, the senior hand, is a licensed captain. He can look at a mess and of knots and twists and turns, and he can within I would say less than a minute have that all undone. You get an eye for that. Quinny, thank you, sweetheart. Yeah, so after you buy your fisher's license, how much to total fish? You buy an annual license, I believe it's $45, but you need to have a salmon tag if you're going to go out salmon fishing. Now, they're checking those licenses when you get on the boat. There's a guy with his Dana, who's the senior deckhand, is there. He's got his hat with his light on it. It's pitch dark in the morning when you get there, full moon. And he's checking your licenses to make sure you're current and make sure you have a salmon tag. And a salmon tag is like $5 additional to have that. So what does that do? That supports the fisheries. Some of the salmon that were caught were hatchery salmon. In which case, when the trip is over and you get back to port and they're distributing the salmon, and they know it's your salmon because they'll put it on a metal hook that has a number on it. And then if you have a hatchery fish, they'll cut the head off because it has a microchip in it, and they'll send that back to the laboratory. So that's what the extra money. There are huge fines. The California Department of Natural, good morning, Joey D. The California Department of Natural Resources doesn't mess around. They don't screw around. There's no appeals. There's no nothing. You have the problem with all the abalone scuba diving. Nice, Fitz. Hey, Amy. You have predominantly Asian and Vietnamese in particular that will go out and harvest abalone off of the coast. They do free diving. And they're typically the ones that get caught either because of ignorance or just not caring about the law. Stripping off the abalone, and they'll, the DNR is watching from the cliffs and stuff. They see what's going on. They will meet you at the car. They will confiscate your catch, and they will heavily fine you, okay? Yeah, that's interesting, Kathy, and good morning to you about the hatchery salmon. So we get abalone poachers like crazy. You have people that try to sneak the odd salmon or two on, and they're very protective of that. And the fines are very steep. If you do it a second time, there's no hope of ever getting a license again to be. And if they catch you, you will serve jail time. You will serve jail time. The California fisheries are very rich. When the United States used to have a 12-mile coastal limit, you would have all the Asian fisheries coming over from Japan and just basically depleting the fisheries over here by extending the 200-mile limit that effectively put an end to that. But poachers are a real problem. You're allowed to take Dungeness crabs, 10 each, that are legal size, but sometimes people want to be greedy. And they don't care what your excuse is. You will get the fine. You will be photographed. And, they will know who you are. And you will be in the registry. I'm not going to say, people on party boats don't pull shenanigans. They do sometimes. It's very tempting for a captain to flout the law. So they're really seriously watched. When we got back to port, the first person to come on the boat was the Department of Natural Resources officer who was checking for fish that came out of the hatchery. They can tell which ones, and then he removes the head and gives you the rest of the fish to take back. I'm not sure, Chris. It's a very closely, good morning, Marshall. It's a very closely monitored fishery. And they take it seriously. Okay, it's not like Mayberry RFD where you just go down to your local fishing hole. Nobody cares. I mean, you're pulling out 15 to 40 pound salmon at a pop. Okay, now there's a lot of them out there. Don't be fooled. And the captains argue, but sometimes they will shut down a captain for a season. Sometimes they shut down the whole fishery. Now, I had a lot of questions about some of the legalities of fishing and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And it's complicated. Because if you're going out on a combination rock cod and salmon fishing, if you do the salmon fishing first, as we did yesterday, then you're not allowed to use a barbed hook to go rock cod fishing. But if you go rock cod fishing first, you can use a barbed hook, and then afterward you can go salmon fishing. Okay? So after we were done salmon fishing yesterday, the deckhands came around to everybody's fish hooks on their rock cod lures. He took his pliers and crushed everybody's barb on the end of their hook. That's how seriously. Well, that's the way they do it. You know, they already figure you probably got your limit of salmon. That's why you're rock cod fishing. Okay? So that's one of the rules, and they strictly enforce that, and they're checking everybody's gear before it hits the water. Okay, that's the way that they run their operations, and sometimes, as happened in that November trip last year, people from the Department of Natural Resources, Fish, Game, and Wildlife will be on the boat the whole time. And they're doing interviews, they're handing out questionnaires and interviewing people about the state of fisheries, and they're checking all fish for legal limit. Good morning, Kitten Cat. Good morning, Norm F. Original Al, how are you, sweetie? Nice to see you. Good morning, Harvey, or should I say good evening. You have to change gear from salmon. Now, people ask me, what's the difference on salmon fishing? Well, salmon are fairly intelligent fish. Fish aren't as dumb as people think. And the number one rule of the captain of the ship is every single person on that deck has to use an identical setup when their lines are in the water. You can use flashers in front of your leaders for your bait, but everybody has to fish with the same bait. The reason is that when looked at from the perspective of fish, if everybody has the same bait on, salmon look at that as a school of active anchovies, and they will come in and they will strike the lines. The other thing is you have to troll for salmon. They will not just strike a bait that's hanging down in the water. You have to actively move the boat. I'm going to explain that in a minute, Chris. There's pre-baited hooks with anchovies that the crew prepares, and you put them on the very end of your line, and they trail about 6 feet behind your weight. Now, the other interesting thing is because you need to troll for these salmon, they're down at a depth of 40 to 80 feet below. And they've calculated that you need a 40-ounce weight to be able to achieve that depth when trolling, or else your weight combination will hang at a lower level. And let me tell you, putting a 40-ounce weight on the end of a fishing rod, you get the living hell beaten out of you when you're salmon fishing. Okay, it's not the same as hooking up a marlin, a sailfish. I recognize that. I know that. Okay, but I'm just saying, when you're humping this thing up and down for hours, it's a lot. Now, the mechanics of this is people say, well, what happens when you get a strike? On this end is tied to the line coming from your rod here. And on this end goes back to your bait, which is trailing 6 feet behind. You have to use the captain's leader at $2 a pop, because they're specially set up for salmon. Okay, they're all specially prepared. They have to have extra strength. Now, when you're trolling down there and your bait is pulling behind here, what happens is when the salmon strikes, this will actually pull apart. This is called a quick release mechanism. It will actually pull, and the weight will drop to the bottom of the ocean, and now you're just fighting the fish, and not fighting the fish and the 40-ounce weight. Okay, it's called a quick release mechanism, and it has a little pin inside that holds the weight and under the proper weight, so when little ones bite they shouldn't release it. It's definitely a challenge. What's frustrating is the first 3 times I was one of the earliest people to hook up with fish on the boat, and the first 3 times when I got strikes, the weight dropped off and the fish dropped off. Okay, very frustrating because these are $10 a pop. Okay, all the lead that's produced in this country is shipped to China. Okay, so these things used to be $2 or $3. Now they're $10 a pop. You can imagine the frustration. Okay, now I was lucky because I hooked one very large salmon that was too big to fit in the cooler. So we made the decision, and then I was able to nail a medium-sized one. And for $2, they filleted the salmon. I gave my 2 salmon, let them fillet them, so that we could put the meat in there. Okay, they were big. Good morning, Kim C. Well, I've just been out quite a few times, hippie, on the ocean there, so I know what the score is. You got to be careful. The biggest danger of salmon fishing. Let me see if anybody can guess what the biggest danger of salmon fishing would be. When you're out on a boat with 13 to 30 other people on a boat, 35 other people, what do you think? Well, I got somebody that makes them for us now. Fits for $5 a pop. We don't need to do that. You know what the biggest danger is? I'll tell you what the biggest danger is. Let's see if somebody knows. When you got 40 fucking people on that boat, and yes, right, Katie, getting hit with this weight, you'll have 40 ounces of weight swinging over the side of the deck, and you got people, you got new people that are trying to cast the weight, and when they go back and release their reel, the weight drops behind them and they're pulling forward, and you got no idea. So at various places on the captain's boat there, the news, you could see where there were small cracks where people had dropped and mishandled weights. And somebody came damn close to getting knocked out yesterday because they turn quick and they don't understand this is swinging at the end of the line, so it's very dangerous. So the captain typically likes to get out there, get the salmon fishing done, make sure everybody gets 2 salmon. Now how do they ensure everybody gets 2 salmon? If you're lucky like the boss and I were yesterday, you get your 2 salmon and they will put it on a numbered tag hook with your number on it. All you have to do is remember your number. Okay, time to leave the boat. They unhook your fish, popping them in the bag. If you have a hatchery fish, they throw it down to the DNR guy. He cuts the head off. That goes back to the fishery hatchery for tracking. Okay, and then they put the rest of your salmon in the bag and you're on your way. If you didn't catch any salmon, what the captain tries to do is make sure. We had a guy out there that nailed 8 salmon yesterday. Okay, this guy was a professional angler. He was in the best position on the boat. Hey, Brian, thank you. Fishing was great. This guy nailed 8. So they don't throw him back. They don't tell the guy, well, you've caught now 2. You can't catch anymore. Man, you keep catching until you got 14 anglers on the boat and you count 28 salmon in that box. Okay. After you catch your 2, you're fishing for the boat. Now, you can take your best 2. At the end of it all, they'll lay it all out. You take your biggest 2. The rest are contributed to the boat. So everybody on that boat, Janet doesn't fish, but she paid to go on the trip. She left with 2 salmon yesterday. Okay. Never the hook touched the water. That's a pretty good idea when you think about it, because everybody comes off with fish and a good feel and a good will, and the fishermen keep doing They keep landing fish. It should be prohibited to fish, though. Drop lead on the boat is pervasive. See, I don't know nomadic heart. I do know this. Hi, sweet pineapple. I do know this. There is no state more environmentally cautious than the state of California. And Cobra John says more and more of these are being made of steel now. So I would imagine that it's rather inert when it sits on the ocean floor. Okay. And B, they're cutting over to steel. Bring Missy Jenn next time and get 2 more fish for the Rancho. The big problem with that is, number one, Jen is not super steady on her feet. The risk of injury to her would be really high. Even to sit there, if you have to go to the head. We had 4 to 5 foot swells yesterday, especially coming home. The boat is pitching side to side. There's people falling and slipping. Of course, they've been drinking all day. But the captain tells everybody, nobody on the bow of the boat, everybody on the stern. Okay, just a safety precaution. You got people, I'm not sure, Hippie, if I'm going to be baking tonight. How you doing, Sean? I mean, it's no joke out there on the sea, you know. I mean, you got people puking all day long. Luckily, I think we're getting a delivery here. Give me a second. That's it. And you can imagine when you're salmon fishing and trolling too, and you're being hit by those 4 to 5 foot sideways, people's leads also swinging around. Captain's got a lot of liability there. The captain will yell. Has it ever been dangerous with the waves where captain had to come back? They try to do this, Marshall. They try to judge the weather and then decide whether to go out or not. Their biggest fear is they're coming back to port, and which would be an hour and a half back to port can sometimes take 3 hours because of the northwest winds have whipped up the ocean out there. It ain't no joke, because if that ship goes down, there are massive great white sharks that park themselves at the entrance to the harbor out there, because they know that's like a big emptying ground. Things come out with the tide. And on our very first trip out to sea, we saw a 22-foot great white shark take down a sea lion. You could have heard a pin drop on that deck. I mean, if you go down out there, this is number one, you'll die of hypothermia first. This ain't the Atlantic coast in summertime. This is the cold flow from Alaska coming down. 50, 53 degree, 55 degree water. You'll be dead within about 15 minutes to a half hour. Hypothermia. So these captains know this is a very dangerous fishery. If you cut a turn too close and you tear out the bottom of your boat, well, man the lifeboats and hope for the best. You get people that go out kayaking on kayaks and fishing, and sharks will come up to them. You got people that are on surfboards at Stimson Beach down by the Golden Gate, and once in a while one of them loses an arm and a leg. I mean, it's serious stuff. There are big sharks out there, Norm. Go take a tape measure sometime. Measure out, unwind it to 22 feet and take a look at that length. And then ask yourself, do I want to be in the water with this thing? You know, that California coast there is absolutely brutal when it comes to rocks. It's not like Southern California with sandy beaches. It's a wild, wild coastline. Okay? But this captain's been on the water for 50 years. Like I said, this captain knows every inch of the bottom and knows everything that's going on. So you saw when you got home last night, we had a huge processing job. I was going to video the dinner afterward, They moved the table on me. I was just going to serve dinner. But by that time, hey Lee Marie, by that time we were just exhausted. I was hurting, in pain from bringing up. You guys saw I landed a ling cod that was about 18 pounds, almost 3 feet long. That thing, it was huge. Even the captain, as you'll see in the video coming up later, came up and got into the video with me. Big one. All day long you're fighting the weights and you're trying to keep your balance on the deck. And let me tell you, going to the bathroom is a unique experience too if you got to go into the head. Okay, because you're literally bouncing off the walls in that thing. Yeah, you use every muscle balancing yourself in deck. So you've had a full workout on there. And I'll tell you, we get up at 3:45 a.m. We're at the boat at 5:15 to 5:30. We're underway at 6:30. We're back at about 3 o'clock. And then we had 4 hours of fish processing to do. 6 salmon and 30 rock cod. And some of the rock cod we caught were enormous. The big ling I caught was a monster. I put it in my YouTube. The total trip, Marshall goes out. He'll leave port at any time between 6:30 and 7. And you'll come back at 3 p.m. Now, we were lucky. The day before, they must have had a little bit of a struggle getting the boat limit of 2 salmon per person. Probably took more time than they anticipated. So they were not able to do the rock cod fishing. That's called a captain's choice. And you know that when yeah, that was an ugly fish, but it was tasty. It is tasty. They call it captain's choice, and the captain always has the last word. And you know that when you book up, no guarantees. But because we got the requisite 28 salmon before, say, noon, before 11 a.m., then we were able to go to the rock pile, do some rock cod fishing, and man, they were monsters. They were monsters down there. You should have packed it in and went to Willie Bird's. Well, I don't know. I don't even think I had the strength to take a shower. And to tell you what, Joey D, they would have kicked my stinky ass out the door yesterday. We all smelled like fish so much we probably would have been given the royal boot from Willie Bird's for sure. Okay? Love you, Andrea. Take care, honey. So that's the reality. You understand about the salmon fishing and trolling. Okay. He hasn't run it for a few years. He runs an albacore tuna fishing trip that's 22 hours. You go there at 10 p.m. at night. You get on board, you have a dinner or something, cocktails, drinks, and meanwhile, he's motoring up the coast, about 100 miles up the coast. And let me tell you, if you hit a school of albacore tuna, you will work your ass off, because tuna are fighters, man. And the boss and I just looked at each other and said, hell no. We couldn't sustain that kind of endurance for that kind of trip. Well, you know, Marshall, you miss a lot of things in life. These are life experiences that I try to tell you about, and I mention generally to other people. Life is a compendium and a compilation of different experiences, creating different memories. Now, the lucky thing about YouTube is that I've documented 7.5 years of my life on YouTube. I go on the boat yesterday, and when the sun comes up and the deckhands can start to really recognize faces, the one named Kevin that you'll see in the blue shirt, "Are you Rosie O'Kelly?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, we watch all of your videos." And the captain's like, "This is the official videographer, cinematographer of my boat." That's pretty cool. When you're an international YouTube celebrity, as I am, watched by millions around the world. People know you, and it was very nice to get the compliments from the captain. And that's a big woo on that. Now, why don't I go sword fishing? Well, number one, swordfish tend to be in sort of warmer waters. The California coastal fisheries are deep water fish, cod, salmon. You go down to San Diego, and maybe I will. Maybe I will head out on a charter boat and try some deep sea fishing down there. You go down off the Yucatan Peninsula, you go down off the Baja Peninsula, and it's some of the best fishing. Hey, Lindsay, it's some of the best fishing in the world down there. Hey, Cornholio, how are you? Some of the best fishing. Yeah, that's, you know, you got to define, lobster fishing, crab fishing, they don't really go together. You got to understand, Marshall, when you're going crab fishing and you're going lobster fishing, you're not putting bait on the end of a hook. All you're doing is dropping a baited pot down and then coming back 2 hours to 24 hours, 36 hours later, and just pulling it up, and you get what you get. So thank you, Almost Uber. There is real wealth in our seas. And nice to see Norm F., the Canadian Clipper, in the chat. Thank you, Uber Goober. Thank you, sweetie. Love you, honey. How you doing, RV Radio? So when we go out in the fall on these combo trips that I did the Cinematic Experience re-upload yesterday, everybody's just basically sitting on the deck while the deckhands are pulling up crab pots. And then you'll have a volunteer from the boat that'll sit there and keep counting the crabs. Because when the captain gets to 10 times whatever number of people are on the boat, so everybody leaves with 10 big fat Dungeness crabs, they're done for the day. Yeah, marlin fishing, big workout. Yeah, it's very safe to eat the fish. Okay, very safe to eat the fish. There are no problems at all. Now, I was also happy to bring a first to the BOYT yesterday. And one of the rarest ones I know is going out from port yesterday on the Rosie Murphy channel and doing a live stream event leaving harbor for about a half hour. Being able to watch the sunrise coming out of the east. It was an absolutely gorgeous day yesterday in sky-wise. The seas could have been a little calmer. But I'll tell you, to have still had that signal 5 miles offshore and still be rolling with the quality that came off of that stream on the Rosie Murphy channel. And if you're not subscribed to the Rosie Murphy channel, you should be. It was a great live stream. Thank you, Katie. And once again, it was breaking new ground on BOYT, breaking new ground with IRL real life streaming there. And truth be told, I could have probably let it go a little longer, but rather sit around and having people subjected to a buffering stream, I just decided to end it. Hey, Ted Mack, how much does it cost? It's $130. Now, you take it this way. You take $130 and then you weigh that off against 6 salmon. It yielded about 20 pounds of finished salmon, all frozen here, all vacuum sealed, filleted and frozen. That wild caught Pacific salmon goes in for at least, that wild caught Pacific king salmon goes for at least $15 a pound, the coastal California variety. Okay, so you're already, do the math. Let's put 2 and 2 together. You got 20 pounds at $15 a pound. You've already basically covered all your fishing. Then we came back with about 25 pounds of finished fillets of rock cod, which is, I actually prefer it to salmon, and that's $10 a pound. The economics of it are good. Thank you, Andrew Scott. DF's like, I enjoyed the stream till I got seasick. Well, this is the warning they have. If you get seasick, the captain's not going to go. He's not going to go back to port. Yeah, it's a good price. The economics work out good. Now, it was 3 of us paid. Now, Janet doesn't fish, but she's entitled to her boat limit of fish if they catch the boat limit. So she left with 10 rock cod, and she left with 2 salmon. Because the other fisher people were effectively fishing for her. So we paid about, $390 for 3 people. So the economics works out good. Hey, Kenny. Yeah, it's about the fun and enjoyment. It's something we do 3 times a year. And it's a long day, but it's a fun day because she likes to be with the boss, and the boss likes to have her there, and she likes to be out on the ocean. But she doesn't like to fish. So she helps with getting the bait from the back of the boat and bringing it up, the squid. She'll sometimes help remove fish from the line. So that's it. So I was glad to be groundbreaking as far as the first on BOYT to be live streaming from sea, going out on a charter fishing boat. Once again, thank you, Verizon. And I have to give a plug for Verizon. They've given me absolutely flawless service. I drove from Milwaukee to North Platte, Nebraska, something over 900 miles. Never lost a signal. Drove from North Platte to Reno. Never lost a signal. And went out to sea a good 5 miles. Norm F says life jackets save lives. They do, but remember what I said. The huge risk if you go overboard is where we fish, with the abundant fisheries there, with seals, sea lions, that the potential for being eaten by a shark is very high. And if that doesn't get you hypothermia, it will kill you within 15 to 20 minutes of being. You cannot maintain your body temperature. You will die. That's why these captains have to be so careful of underground reefs and rock structures. Because if they tear a hole in the bottom of the boat, man, it's on. It is on. They do not have food or drinks on the boat for sale. No, this is a working charter boat. They don't care if you bring 50 beers. You got people cracking beers at 5 a.m. in the morning. And people staggering off that boat at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Okay. Captain doesn't care if you drink a 5th and pass out on the deck. As long as not, yes, there's no survival suits. No. There are life rafts. And there are life preservers that required to have them on board. Child ones and adult ones. Marshall says saving a few $100 is not worth your life. Well, I'm going to take my chances with a guy that's been fishing this fishery for 50 years. Because this captain cares whether you catch fish or not. He's going to make sure that if you're on a combo crab rock cod fishing trip, you're going to leave with 10 Dungeness crabs, restaurant quality size, and 10 rockfish, rock cod. If you're going salmon fishing, he's going to make sure you leave with 2 salmon each, and you're going to leave with 10 rock cod. No wonder his business is so darn good. Now, I don't want to make this is not about Elvis Travels today. This is my life. Okay, this is my things going on. Okay, I don't mind questions, but this is about me and my life. Now, that wraps up that. The van key has finally come in. As you guys know, I was unfortunate enough to be in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I had my jean skirt on with very shallow pockets, and I had my keys in the shallow pocket, and somewhere in that melee of Cheyenne frontier days, I lost my keys. I had to have a lockout guy come, open up the car, $40, and I had to have a guy come and tow it for $120 because I was on a parade route. My good luck in finding a great parking spot turned into a curse. Okay, that's the reality of that. Luckily, Missy was never found. Thank you, Katie. It was never found. It was never turned in anywhere. But it's okay. The next day, actually 10 p.m. that night, when I got to Alpine Gulch home, which she kindly allowed me to stay and have my van towed to, I called Missy Jenn. She answered the phone. It was late. And I said, I got a big problem. I've lost my keys. She said, I got the spare set. Right when FedEx opened the next morning, she was right there at the door and FedExed them. And by 12:30 the next day, I had them in my hand. I definitely have an extra key because I'm going down to the Dodge dealer today, because the replacement key has come in to the tune of $135. Yeah, I'm going to keep one, Elvis. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to have to pay a fee to have that programmed into the car. So it was a learning experience. Definitely a learning experience. Yeah, Missy Jenn saved the day. Because when I called Cowboy Dodge in Cheyenne and told them I needed a replacement key, that guy told me it was going to take 7 to 14 business days to get that key. Wow. I would have had to fly home and then fly back and drive back. Even this guy here, on the 9th of August, I ordered the key. And only yesterday, well, no, it was actually almost the day I got back. August 3rd, I ordered the key, and August 15th, it came in. Yeah, I know nobody's perfect, but it was a hell of a lesson learned. That and destroying a tire in Detroit and smashing the cell phone glass on it. It's got to be programmed into my vehicle. And a RAM is a very specialized, very difficult key. The locksmith told me in Cheyenne, Wyoming, I could cut a key for anything. He tried to cut a key. He said, I'm seeing by my diagram here, he had a computer in his van. Really nice guy, Adam's Lock and Key. And he's got a computer and he's calling up the configuration and he says, you know what, I'm going to try to cut a Subaru key because this thing looks really, really close. Okay, but I wondered what's that going to be able to do for me since everything's all programmed in. But he tried it and it failed. But he was a hell of a nice guy. It's a laser cut key. It's not a traditional Ace Hardware, Home Depot, Lowe's key fob. This is a laser cut key. Thank you, McFly. That's exactly what the hell it is. It's exactly what it is. A laser cut key. Lesson learned. I guarantee you that situation, I hope it never happens again. Okay. Downside of this RAM is they never see him there in that area. If I've not been on for a while, how did your meal go with the lasagna? It was great. It was a great meal. I had lasagna. Janet brought a salad. I made some garlic bread from the homemade Italian loaf. It was a delicious dinner. Very delicious dinner. Thank you for asking. Hey, tis me. How are you? It was delicious. It was a great event. Now, I will be putting a cinematic video together over the next couple days. And I think people will enjoy that. They seem to enjoy that set to music. And you don't always, this is the thing I try to tell people about YouTube. You don't always need to be talking all the time. If you care about cinematography and videography, oftentimes just your video tells the story and people can connect the dots. They know what the hell you're doing. They know what the scenery looks like. But you set that to music and you get plenty of people in your videos, because people love to watch people in video. People love to be people watchers. Thank you, Anna. Nice to see you, sweetie. Oh, thank you, honey. Yeah, I got my new do. Yeah, one of them. Anyway, Jen, how are you doing, sweetheart? Hey, Mark. Yeah, can't wait to kiss the wall of sand. You might be dusting it. Just joking. Yeah, I love to see videos. I love to see people. I'm an observer of human nature, and I love to, Elvis might be more of a lone wolf, but I don't do well by myself. I couldn't stomach the thought of going to Las Vegas and being by myself, much less the risks and hazards of the streets on nights where the temperature is mean and 104 to 105 degrees at night. I'm a people person. I can't stand to be alone. And many of you have already discovered that. So that's the reality of that. When I get to the travel plans now, yeah, I give you credit, Marshall, 4 years in a van. I give you credit for that. Would I have done things exactly as you have done them? No. Have I taken heat for it? Yes. Have I had people do responses to my videos? Yes, Brad Silverdog did a very thoughtful video, but as usual, much of it is half-truths and non-truths. The fact that I encouraged Marshall, had the idea for him to go to Mexico, never crossed my mind. Other people in his chat mentioned Camper Van Carolyn and how she did a whole series of algodondes and how much Americans can save for dental. But yet that's floated out as truth that it was my idea. It's okay. I like Brad Silverdog. We share a passion for the Alabama Crimson Tide. But so much of conjecture and what people put out, because let's face it, they talk about me a lot. They talk about Marshall a lot. But they're not there. They're not privy to the phone conversations. They're not privy to the personal time of meeting up and having discussions of the future and making plans for the future. Trying to get somebody to project down the road to think about the way things might be. What if scenarios we start to play out and stuff like that. So whatever the commentary is, you're starting off with imperfect knowledge as a starting point. You're also starting out with a heavy dose of the past, which is good, which is okay. But I've always been a person that looks forward to the future. And because there's nothing you can do about the past, naturally my attention focuses on the future. Yes, my idea was dental schools in Chicago, which are fast disappearing. Okay, and let's not be fooled. Dental schools aren't going to mess around with crowns and things like that. You're still going to be paying a significant amount of money. They're not going to give you ceramic on metal just for the heck of it. Therefore, you know, I appreciate people that do. I do listen to them. I don't always comment on them, but they also become a point where people pile on. And truth be told, you see the same people in the comment section, the same people that have been polarized across so many subjects on this community, that you see the typical red team, blue team phenomena paid out. People that like Rosie are going to be with Rosie. You know, my numbers, I've gone over 22,000 subscribers recently. The views, Rosie Murphy's now remonetized. It's the one I really cared about, the monetization. But, you know, it is good for YouTube business. And I don't always make the right decisions in life, and I don't always make decisions that people are going to agree with on YouTube. But I stand by my decisions, and I don't get swayed by the roar of the crowd, what the red team says or the blue team says, because I have no team. If you notice, I don't engage in anybody else's hangouts. I don't go on panels. I just stick to my own stuff and I put out my own content. I've told people before, the best thing you can do is be a rock in the middle of the stream of YouTube. Because one time the channel will move around this way and people will be on this side of the boat. Then something happens and they'll run to the other side. Back and forth. The finger in the wind. Which way's public sentiment going now? Saw that recently with the Mallory and the D situation. That boat rocked violently back and forth. What did I do? I stayed the hell out of it. I don't need to get involved in those situations and that kind of drama. If you're out there making your own content, no, kitten cat. I'm not. And I have to tell you, the thing I admire most about you, kitten cat, is you're able to judge both sides of the situation. Sometimes I do things that are good decisions in your mind, or I put up good videos and you'll tell me that was good content. And sometimes I do stuff that you can't stand. How you doing, Nicole? Nice to see you, sweetie. And you'll tell me. And I like that. I don't really believe that you're on a dedicated team, but it served me well since the beginning of the year not to be involved in hangouts, not to be involved in panels, because I had to make my own conclusion. Although they're fun to listen to, they become breeding grounds for problems. They become breeding grounds for friends to become enemies and enemies to become friends. You don't need to do that if you're out creating and building your own content. Now, do I think less of people that have hangouts? No. I enjoy listening to the hangouts, but I just know for me that they're not the right thing in my YouTube life anymore. But I do enjoy listening to them, and I do like the people. I love listening to Uber Goober's hangouts. I love listening to Nicole's hangouts. I like to listen to Elvis's hangouts. I like to listen to Colleen's hangouts. I listen to a lot of people's hangouts. I enjoy them. But I know for me, hey Los Algodondas, I know for me that my panel days are over. And has my life been better for it in 2019? It's been incredibly good. You know, Marshall, you know, puts out there about you got to pay $500 to have me on the panel. Well, you know, what the hell can I say about that? You know, for me, I've just seen how they've just become platforms for fighting. And people that want to try a positive and have positive drama-free hangouts inevitably come back to talking about Marshall, me, Marshall, what's going on with the Rancho, what's going to happen in the future, what's going to happen to Lisa Marie, what's going to happen on the Rancho, who's going to Vegas, because it's watchable content. But for those who say it's planned, and I'm sorry, I'm just not watching the side chat too much. I apologize. I'll have time for your questions at the end here. But it's content that people are watching, whether they're hate watching or anything. You know, the numbers will bear it out. But let me assure you once again that if it was one thing I would swear to here on YouTube, my hand on the Bible, it would be this. I've never sat down and scripted anything on YouTube. Because you don't need to script it. Because you have strong-willed people interacting, and you have people that enjoy watching it. And that's why people watch Big Brother, Survivor, and all that goes on with those things. It's very watchable content. If I wanted to persuade Elvis to come up to Las Vegas, which we discussed on the phone, if I was an uncaring person, I would have said, "Hey man, Elvis, come on up to Vegas. Drive the 243 miles across some more hot desert with no rooftop AC and 110, 120 degree surface temperatures there. Because I need you for content. I don't need anybody for content." We talked on the phone. I could have said, "Hey man, I'll cover your gas money. Don't worry about it." I think he made an intelligent decision. Now, do I think some time was wasted in Los Algodondas and Yuma? Yeah. Get in, get it done, get the hell out. But when the rooftop AC went out and we talked about it, and he made the decision to go up north, I thought it was a smart decision. It's the only way he's going to survive the nighttime temperatures and things. And then just do one trip back down when the AdSense money comes in. In other words, don't come to Vegas. It doesn't make sense. I know you like to hang out, and that's fine. I know you like to have a good time, but it's number one, Las Vegas is a hot environment. You're getting enough of that right now. Number two, you know, you're not into chooching and, you know, walking 3 to 4, 5, 6 miles in a night. Okay, it's cool. You recognize the limitation, and you also don't like to sit around pools and things like that. I get that. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. Anybody that thinks that, you know, he gets accused of using me for content and me for him for content, but you know, decisions and discussions are held, and it makes sense. Stay where it's comfortable. Stay where it's comfortable. Yeah, I know I got it right, Marshall. I know I got it right. Stay where it's comfortable. Save your money. Try to marshal your resources and not lose a lot of money. Yeah, I mean, that's fine, Nicole. That's the intelligent thing to do. If it's nerve-wracking, if it's been a beating down experience, you move off to your own thing. And I see you as so much happier these days, Nicole, where you're not engaging in every micro battle with people. You know, I admire the decision that you've made. Yes, it's been costly with some friends and things, but it was the right decision for you, in my opinion. Hey, how you doing, we see? Nice to see you. Now, once his teeth are taken care of and we meet up in San Diego, then it's a different experience. then it's time to once again discuss the future. I got time on my hands. I'm willing to invest the time. But I would tell people like Brad Silverdog something like this. At no time in my history with Elvis Travels, gone all the way back to nomadic Assyrian Elvis Van Dweller, which was the first time I encountered him after Drury's chats, when 95% of you were nowhere around, and discussions of the future. At no time in those whole 5 years have I done anything but encourage him to get a job. You can't tell other people how to live their life. Nor can you tell people and assume what they told somebody is this is a life to live. Okay? Like I say, I got time on my hands. Rebuilding the Lisa Marie or doing something like that, to me, is a fun project. How Marshall earns his bread and butter is his issue. In other words, I'm not going to tell somebody that they can't be a YouTube celebrity. If you want to be a YouTube celebrity and you want to make a career at it, you got people like Nomadic Fanatic. When's the last time he worked a job? Some of these other desert dwellers. Camper Van Kevin. Some of these other people that are in the van. Howie Roll. Pick up an odd job here and there. These are people that are bound and determined to be. And they're trying to get watched. But the reality is, putting out watchable content can also lead to success. I know that. So as much as, Mike Living Free and all these people, and I don't hold anything against Mike Living. I have nothing against the guy. It's your life, and it's your life the way you choose it, and people have a choice whether to watch it or not. And they watch like crazy. You know, I got more, it's not often I talk about it, I got more channel views, even having removed 4 million views of videos I've stripped out of the channel, than Mike Living Free, Wanderlust Estate, Just Incredible, Camper Van Kevin, right up at the top of the pack. Because it's good balanced content, and for the most part it's positive. Just like they try to be. People will watch because it's an interesting story, that's why. I often joke to Missy Jenn, how you doing, Cheryl? I often talk to Missy Jenn if somebody like Marshall ever got a job on YouTube. What would people spend their time talking about? You know, it's like a show people don't like, but they like to watch. But I'm saying he has to make his own decisions for the future. And I reiterate again, as I did with Missy Jenn and discussing with the boss and Janet, who've been my friend for 10 years, and Bobby. You know, if you can help somebody out, help them out. And hope eventually that the confluence of events becomes such that things change. Thank you, Canadian Clipper says, inspirational afternoon fodder. So I do appreciate, as I said before, I do appreciate people like Brad Silverdog. They're quality individuals through and through. They're extremely high quality individuals. But I'm going to continue doing what I want to do. You know, because I do care about YouTube and putting up the content, and I will continue to do so. But I've not gone back on the reality that if Marshall chose to come up to the Rancho, the gate would be open. Because I would enjoy it. It'd be in my interest to do that work, because I enjoy doing that kind of work. I love doing that kind of work. Would I go so far as to put a shower and all that? No, I don't think I'm going to do all that. Because the reality of the road, we talk about Walmart bags and things like that. The reality of the road, there's no reason to ever have to do stuff like that except in an emergency. Having traveled 10,443 miles, stayed and showered in Planet Fitnesses and bathrooms everywhere on planet Earth, Walmarts and everywhere else. There's no excuse. Yeah, a pee jug at night, I got one. You know, I'm not going to go outside and crank on the street there, you know. So I'm just saying a lot of stuff, you know, the things endure and they endure and they endure, stuff like that. So, well, you know, I told before, if it's, I don't mind doing remodel work. It's a joy of my life to do restoration work. I love doing that stuff. I love doing it for vintage audio. You guys have seen, you know, the wall of sound there with many restoration projects. My whole Gmail, which I've had since day one here on YouTube, icanmakeitlikenew@gmail.com. It's a passion of mine. It's something that I love doing. Do I get along well with Marshall? Yes. But do I have any big influence over his life? No. I don't think I'm entitled to have that. But if I am doing, and if I choose to do this work, it's something that I enjoy doing. As for the monetary aspects, that's for him to worry about. Material, things like that. That's it. And I like your philosophy, Norm F., the Canadian Clipper. Life is a struggle. And sometimes it takes a whole hard boot of reality to get things set on a different path. How do I know? This guy may go on to be a mega YouTube star. I don't know. But I feel bad about it? Nope. I applaud success. So, there it is. Yeah, I like McFly's good. Ardale, to me, let's do the math, Ardale, since you're such a hater of me on so many different chats. That I see you on chat streams, misgendering, everything else, that's fine. You put 2 and 2 together, renovations cost money for material. Okay? No material, no. Okay, how you doing, Otame? No material, no project. It's as simple as that. That's for him to figure out that. Well, Secret, I'm just use that as an example, Secret account. I'm not saying he's, you know, nobody ever becomes a star on the BOYT. Let's be real. We have a lot of fun here. Yeah, but you know, Ipper, El Pepper, it's going to be his call. The expectation will be, and the discussions will be, how do you plan to raise money for this project? So, it'll be an interesting one. Yeah, I worked for 46 years, so the good time. That's not my place to say, Nicole. I know he's giving spot apologies, but this is not Elvis. This is about my life, and I don't think that's ever going to happen. So, fall on the Rancho. It's going to be interesting. I got Missy Jenn's infusion. I got a few other things I'm monitoring with Missy Jenn at the current time. I need to stay on top of that too. In other words, my priorities are in the right place here. Coming home, spending time with Jen before being out on the road again. It's the right thing to do. Done a lot of repair projects here. Painting, fans that had to be replaced, vent fans. You know, sinks that are clogged, showers that are clogged. We're doing a lot of different things here. Why? Because I care about Jen and I love her and I want to make sure she's in the very best shape that she can be. And make no mistake about it, Every time Jen is offered the chance to travel, I once again have the expectation and hope that I can either take her down to San Diego for a week as we traditionally did in October. But Jen is a person that enjoys the quiet solitude of, life here on the Rancho. No, I don't. Old weather guy, I'm so beyond explaining myself to anybody on here because there's too many people. They're all, the majority of people are invested in a team. No matter what you're going to do, no matter what happens, they're still going to be on that team. Okay? A lot of that you'll see in other chats. Rose, he, the misgendering that goes on. You understand the underlay of people, the prejudices that people have. Not a lot of people. That's kind of the baseline, and then you're supposed to build off of that. You'll never overcome that. You'll never undertake. It's like the bathroom talk, as if trans people like me would use a women's bathroom and we're there leering or peeking around, as if that would ever happen. People go in, they do their business, they fix their makeup, and they leave. Never had an issue all of my travels with anything. Why? Because I deal from a position of respect. Yeah, well, that's what Lee Marie, he's wrong, and you have your right to voice an opinion about that, and that's fine. That's the good part of YouTube, is that people can weigh in. But as far as my side of it, I have an additional underbase of a certain core of people that everything's built on the trans dislike, which is okay. It's not a card I pull. I mean, I watch the chats, it's fine. I never come on and I never will do something addressing stuff like that because it's not worth it to me. It's not going to help me live my life on a day-to-day basis. Some of those things are just ingrained, and there's nothing that we can do about it. Yeah, thank you. I have a lot of people that have respect for me. A lot of people have respect for me, and I appreciate that. So, all I can do is, Marshall will be doing his thing. Yeah, I think periodically we'll be meeting up for travels and adventures. I have to say the 3 weeks that I spent with him in, yeah, I'm just saying Kenco, but it's up to people that, no, I'm not going to stop with the team stuff because I see it all the time in the chats. People get frustrated when a Norm F comes out and donates and things like that. It's not me donating. I'm making my own decisions about stuff. But what I do with my time and my skills is my business. And I exercise that right to do that. I hope everybody has success. But I'm saying on that 3-week trip to Michigan and around the Great Lakes, it was, you do a little, there'll be some content for Milwaukee is sucks and blah, blah, blah. Everybody's entitled to opinions. Do I think it could use some, a little bit of a different verbiage and things about this stuff? Of course. But I also know a lot that comes out of that mouth is for show. Good afternoon, Goldie. Thanks for being on deck yesterday. Thank you for being on deck. Yeah, I just never had a problem with that Fitz. So, Marshall has driven his own road through life. He's the one that has to face the future that will have consequences, good or bad, for that decision. Just like all of us do. In other words, if there's a negative price to be paid, he will be the one to ultimately pay that negative price, not the rest of us. Most of the rest of us went out, we worked our jobs, we put our noses to the grindstone, we put our years in so we could get a little bit of a pension and be out there enjoying life. And for the first time in my years, it's great to be out here seeing America and the great country it is. Yep, Missy Jenn's in the background here. Yeah, I live pretty well myself. Not great, but okay. No complaints. I think Janet would have a different opinion of how I live. Pretty low to the ground. That's it. I think we're ready to... That's fine. Kenko, you know, I like you. I like the opinions you have, Kenko. I like the way you express yourself. And I've never had a problem. People are going to keep doing what they do, and that's their right to do that. And I respect that. Okay? That's their choice. But recognize that YouTube is a social media platform wherein ultimately you do have the choice to close out, unsub, which plenty of people did for me, block and move on, and you'll never be bothered by that again. But what I've seen in the case of that is you'll have, you know, the class of 2015 with somebody like Marshall, and then it'll kind of dissipate, and then a new cycle of people will come in the class of 2016, and we got to tell everybody what this guy's about. Then the class of 2017, the 2018 class, the 2000, it's a continuous cycle I've seen. You know, it's like if you think that you're going to educate people or do things, I give you a lot of credit for trying. But ultimately on YouTube, you have different people that come along, and as Brad Silverdog said, may have different motivations for something. I don't agree with him in terms of me, but I do agree that there can be people that come along that perceive that situation as something different. And they're going to act accordingly on that. Those of us who have been around for 2015 is because, you know, they've seen it all before here, and a lot of these people just don't engage. Well, I'm saying, Kit and Kat, you know, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar, as I said before the other day, and I stick by everything I said in my discussion there, to see the ultimate combination of, you know, lack of working in society plus aging, things like that. Ultimately, we know what happens, so, but this is America. And people have that freedom to pursue that kind of life if they want. This is why the Chinese society has it all over us in America. Just in terms of that, if you're not productive and you don't eat, if you're not productive, you don't eat. But this is an America that's built on personal freedoms, and as I've said before, you know, I've never heard Brad Silverdog address YouTube as a platform and the structuring of YouTube, which in itself is designed, ultimately now they're shaping people to be self-sufficient and self-supporting on YouTube. In other words, if you choose to make YouTube a career, here's the tools that you have at your disposal. You have AdSense. When you cross a certain level of subscribers and views, then you start to get what's called premium advertisements, which pay more. Really, the people that try to analyze and tell you what you make on the AdSense are really far off the mark in terms of what can potentially be made. That's number one. Number two, they fully endorse you. They fully endorse you having Patreon accounts. Things where people support you on the monthly. Well, I'll give you special videos. I'll do this for you guys. I'll have a special hangout for you. It's fine. There's a couple people I'm a Patreon member of. Another thing that's set up. And then they have the super chat, which is encouraging people if you enjoy the content. And I always try to bring content that people can enjoy. Then you need only press a little button and you can make a donation. All your information is kept confidential. Only your channel name shows up. And then the last thing, of course, is having PayPal. But I don't hear people ever doing discussions talking about the table that YouTube set. They're the real enabler, Brad Silverdog. Okay, honey. They are the true enablers of what you see on YouTube. How you doing, Nature Man? If you took away Super Chat, if you took away the right to put a PayPal link within your videos or side chats, if you took away Patreon, if you took away the advertising, you would have a platform that in no way, thank you, Kenko, which in no way would have the ability to support. Now, I think AdSense is a good thing. The reason I think so is because it does encourage creativity. It also encourages a bit of craziness too. It can encourage extremism. It can encourage people to go out and try to be ledge walkers on buildings or walk across the tops of bridges and do stupid shit. Like the dumbass Chinese guy hanging off the side of a skyscraper. But unfortunately, this low IQ dimwit never thought he'd come across a building that was perfectly slick and smooth-sided. He lost his grip. He lost his life. It's all entertainment. So when truth is said and done, and the whole point of today's thing is that YouTube's the one that's designed the rules in Google Corporation. They know exactly what they've set up here. They've given people the tools to be admired and supported by people or be hated by people. So ultimately, if you want to blame anybody, go back to the original, go back to what you might term the original sin of allowing such a place to exist anyway. Yeah, I'm a little crazy sometimes, but I've seen some crazy stuff on YouTube too. And I see people that do more and more stunts. A person like Marshall will be incentivized to come out and be more and more offensive, occasionally drag somebody into the mix because he knows it's good for business, YouTube business. So ultimately, to me, some people were able to see, okay, you know, we're able to separate the WWE from, you know, the reality. But I understand other people are entitled to see things the way they want. I never argue with that. But to me, the blame, if you have any, should be laid squarely at the feet of YouTube for allowing this system to be set up. I don't think it's a bad system myself, but for those of you who don't think that e-begging as seeds to freedom certainly does, with his recent expression of his decision that he would not go to any channel that had a PayPal or Super Chat button on it. It's a decision he made. I happen to feel if you bring in content and good content, people naturally feel inclined to tip and reward that. That's fine. But that's how he feels about it, more in line with, well, YouTube has this platform set up. Another berg, completely wrong. One on set the it's seeing blind Elvis factors. Another berg and completely wrong. One and only set the oh, good scumbag will take you. Oh, Kenko, you know, I've had people for years here. I don't know how long you've been on the channel here. It hasn't always been a smooth ride, but in 2019 I made a decision just to reduce public exposure on things like Hangouts. I enjoy them. I like the people on BOYT. I like 95% of the people here are great. They're wonderful people. I love hanging out with them. But I just thought for myself, having been after Jory, the second wave of Hangouts in 2015, that I just thought that they weren't right for me anymore, because I was going to be on the road. And because YouTube's Hangout platform was changing, I didn't want to have to worry about learning a new platform and giving out new links and all that. Anyway, yeah, Kenny G. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead. I appreciate you sharing your opinions. And let me close by saying this. I have a high degree of respect for people that come out and voice an opinion like a Brad Silverdog. Do I in no way, shape, or form feel like I should take anything away from the opinions and the things that he stated in his video? That's called respect for somebody in the community. But in my mind, people have a right to make their own decisions and do their own thing on YouTube. And then people have a right to react to that. Watch or not watch. Because let's face it, there's things that irritate people. There's things that delight people here. Yeah, I've considered Brad Silverdog a friend of mine for years. I know he thinks very highly of Missy Jenn. Maybe not so highly of me. And that's fine. Does it take anything away from Brad at all? It takes zero away. You know, I wouldn't say anything negative. I might not agree with half of what he says, but I certainly like the way he speaks and voices his opinions about things. He's a good man. His videos rock. And obviously his home, you can look at it, he's an accomplished person. He's a person that lives well and enjoys the fruits of that. And in a way, he wants to see other people enjoy the fruits of that. But not everybody that you know in the flat two-dimensional world of YouTube is the same as they are in real life. 3 dimensions gives you a whole other viewing angle on somebody. It's called real life. All right, everybody. Thanks for being along today. I'm not sure if I'll be baking tonight. If I am, it'll be on the McNamara channel. I got to go get my car key, my van key. Thank you so much, guys, for allowing me to express my opinions on here. Like I said, my moderators, too, sometimes they would like to take a pair of wet socks and stuff my mouth. I know that. But that's called having the respect for the job that they do and the things that they try to run here on chat. So please have respect for them. Vegas is coming up. I have not spoken about the D. Our plans are still firm. I'll be talking about them tomorrow and discussing that. But thanks so much for being here today, guys, and being on the Rosie O'Kelly channel. And make sure you're also subscribed to the Rosie Murphy. There will be streams over there too. Some people have noted that they would like to be supportive on the channel, but do not feel comfortable doing that on PayPal because of the information. Other people realized I hold information rock solid tightly and don't give anything away, but nonetheless, it's a reality of things. Running an occasional stream on the Rosie Murphy channel will give you a chance to do that with full confidentiality. And we will have a good time in Las Vegas with some chooching. I know a lot of people are anxious to see that again. And once again, thanks for being on the chat today, guys. And be well, watch the heat, and enjoy the rest of your August. Woo!